This is the Appalachias, and this part of the Appalachias is the Great Smoky Mountains, with the highest peaks east of the Mississippi of the Appalachias is in these mountains, and this part of it is Cades Cove. Now this Cades Cove is a little community nestled right in the mountains of the Smokies. Quiet little place, a beautiful place, and a lot of history here at one time. Hundreds of families lived here at one time before the park took it. This is an aerial picture of it way back in the 30s. A lot of history passed through here, and a lot of families lived hard lives here, but they lived happy and simple lives. And I was lucky enough to meet one of the families from the Cove. So I'm going to introduce you to someone that I met that's got plenty of stories of the Cove. Well, hello friends. I'm here in Maryville, Tennessee, Blount County, here with a good buddy of mine. He's going to share a few stories with me about the old Smoky Mountains here. His people's from Cades Cove. His grandfather born and raised there, and so was his dad. But anyway, this is John McCullough, and he's just an old mountain man himself. So I'm gonna let him share a few stories with you. I hope you enjoy them. Now his family is from the Cove. His great grandfather come in here in the late 1800s into this cove, and his father was born here, his grandfather was born here, and the park took it over. But anyway, there's so many stories he shared with me about these mountains, his family life, their culture, and some of the mysterious stories. And I've got so many to share, and I'm going to share a series of them here. But the first one I think I just start out with is the wood carving. They are gifted people in these mountains, and I'm going to show you. Now, John, we're talking about your grandpa. We know he had a lot of skills in these old mountains, and one of them was wood carving. And he made a lot of little toys as a hobby and give to his kids and grandkids. And I see you still got that gift in you too, buddy, being his grandson.
Yeah, Donnie, my grandpa used to make a little old dancing man, they called him. He had a good friend that he knowed from years, I guess childhood even. This old man, after Grandpa moved out of the Cove, this old man used to come out there in the wintertime. He might stay a week or two with Grandpa. And they'd sit around and they'd whittle, carve. He showed Grandpa how to make these old dancing men.
Yeah.
I done a little more to mine. I painted him up and put him some overalls on. But
that's beautiful. It's just an old mountain craft.
That's just a toy.
Old mountain craft is just about gone away.
But it
works.
Yeah, it works. They'd stretch a piece of inner tube across his head and stretch it between two straight chairs and put a pie pan under him. You could hit that inner tube, and boy, he'll really get the dancing, you know.
Yeah, that's so nice. That's just a lost craft in these mountains.
Yeah.
But gee, he was good at it. You can see the pictures here of the little stuff he made for hobbies. He was really good at it.
Yeah, he loved to carve squirrels and ducks and things like that, cattle. He'd make a team of oxen and make a little wagon for them, and he'd put rooster spurs on them for their horns.
Yeah, I've seen them there. In this old picture here, you can see the stuff on the table there he's made. He was real proud of them, and he was gifted too.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good little story, John. I see it still carries on, buddy. Now, I'll show you how gifted John and his grandpa was. John just carrying it on. There's a quarter. And I want you to look at these. I can pick them up here. There is a shotgun, whittled out by hand. How in the world? John, that's amazing right there. And you can see the quarter to give it scale. And look at this other one he made. Looks like an old Winchester rifle, repeating rifle. Look at that, whittled out by hand. My goodness, John, how could you do that? I would break the wood. You had to be really patient. Them is amazing right there. Amazing right there. You're gifted, buddy. That's just a gift, no doubt about it. And as far as the little dancing man, well, they just made them for their children for Christmas and stuff like that. And I added little Mountain Kurt's music to it, and this is what the kids played with. Well, ain't that a precious work of art? Old mountain crafts of these mountains. This is what the children played with back in the day. But it's a dying art. And all these mountain people seem to sit around, our elders, I always noticed, like to whittle. Just sit and whittle all day long. And some were really good at it. And they used all kinds of pocket knives. You couldn't catch one of them without a pocket knife on them. And boy, they loved to whittle with them too. All types of all sizes. No specialty knives, just regular old pocket knives. And they were gifted too, these people. They lived by themselves, isolated, so they built their own homes, done everything on their own. There was no place to go to get anything. You had to get it from nature and build it yourself. And they just built it with a few little old hand tools like this. This is what they done and what they used. And they crafted everything, every individual piece of wood, into these old classic homes, you see, throughout these parks. And the Park Service does a great job preserving them. Ain't they beautiful? Old works of art. Beautiful old homes, made by hand. Even the old corn cribs never even had a nail either, all made by pegs. Even the old barns, their imagination and hard work. But ain't they works of art? And I get around these old music shops down here in the Smokies, and they got all kinds of musicians and all kinds of instruments too. Some are homemade, some are not. But look at the prices of some of the homemade ones. Made by hand. Ain't them beautiful? Collector's items, for sure. I wished I could play one of these fiddles. But I see the banjos, all the musical guitars, the dulcimers, all made by hand. Collectors. And these people, they didn't have no store. They made their own instruments, so they know somebody in the mountains that made them for them. And they made their own music, beautiful music. And they could make their own furniture, or somebody in the community could. Of all things, baskets, anything. Even their own material to make clothes with. These were gifted people in these mountains. People don't think so, but they was. And they made their own medicines from this ginseng. And yes, they made their old drink for generation after generation when they come in these old mountains. Moonshine, white lightning, whatever you called it. they made it. These old mountains, these people think we're just backward people, but these were gifted people in these mountains, and they were isolated, so they was on their own. And I hope you enjoy these. Now, old John, me and him had done a couple of videos a couple of years ago. You can go back and see them here. Now, I thank old John for his stories. This is just one of a few stories I'm going to share with you. This is the start. So I hope you enjoy these old mountain culture videos of our people and these mountains. I want to thank you for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.